FNAF 3. It's a controversial one. It seems like people either love it or hate it. Okay, scratch that, most people think it's just mediocre. There are two main reasons for this: the gameplay and the jump scares. The main complaints about the gameplay are that it is slow and a little too easy as compared to the utter chaos of FNAF 2. The main complaints about the jump scares are very similar, being that once again they're a little bit too slow. But to be fair, the FNAF 2 jump scares weren't all that great either, and that's where FNAF 3 Plus comes in. Or as I should say, Fazbear Fright's attraction. In the later nights, its gameplay produces situations that are nearly just as frantic as the ones in FNAF 2, and it straight up borrows another mechanic from it. At the beginning of Night 1, we are dropped into an interactive cutscene of sorts, where we are forced to walk up to Fazbear Fright's, our new work location. We are able to sort of look side to side, but we can only walk forward. This gives a feeling of being trapped because even though we can look from side to side and we should be free to do what we want, all we can really do is walk straight forward to our doom. And the building looms over us, and it seems like the closer we get to the door, the slower we get, until the scene fades out. The office is almost identical to the one from the original game, except RTX on. If we flip up our maintenance panel, we can see a little version of Helpy, a map of the ventilation system with a hold to use ventilation button. We also have a new reboot option, reset cooling system. I'll explain how that works a little bit later. There are no phantoms and no Springtrap at all in this night, just like in the first game. Unnerving but subtle ambience plays throughout the whole night. Here's where things get more interesting. Now, Phantom Balloon Boy and Phantom Foxy are active, and they found one. A real one. There are no phone calls in this game, by the way. Balloon Boy works precisely the same as he does in the first game. You can't look at him too long, except switching cameras doesn't get rid of him. You have to put down your monitor to avoid his jump scare. Phantom Foxy also works the same as he initially did. If you see him in your peripheral vision as you turn to your maintenance panel, look away, flip up the camera, and he'll disappear. If you look all the way over at him, he'll step out of the screen and your maintenance panel is disabled for a few seconds, and then he'll get you a few seconds later. Springtrap is pretty easy to deal with as long as you don't get a ventilation error, especially since he can't enter the vents at all. I'll discuss why he can't enter the vents in my final thoughts. Now that it's night 2, some errors start showing up. Audio errors, there's a lot of variability. Sometimes you get 2 audio uses before it breaks, sometimes you get 5, it's all about luck. You don't really need to worry about video errors on this night. Ventilation errors are precisely the same as in the first game. They occur at random times or when you get hit by a phantom. You can probably already see some teamwork that the gang of phantoms can use to make your life miserable here. You have to flip up your monitor to get rid of Foxy if you spot him, and that's exactly where Balloon Boy will probably be waiting for you. Now let's talk about how the new mechanics come to play in Night 2. The hold to use ventilation button is basically just the music box. You have to hold it to keep this little bar from reaching your office. I did a little experiment to see what happens if you don't wind up the ventilation. So if I can pull this off, let's just see what happens if we let this little bar expire. He still hasn't moved yet as far as I know. What happens if we reset? And he's here. I didn't hear any walking from him. It just gets him right up to our door. And I think it makes ventilation errors happen way more often. As for the cooling system errors, they're a bit like ventilation errors. They pop up at random, but they drain your oxygen meter. More on the oxygen meter later. All you need to know now is bar reach office and oxygen go down equals bad. I think Phantom Freddy joins the party for Night 3, but I could be wrong. He may be there from Night 2. Regardless, FNAF 3 Plus Phantom Freddy works a lot differently. Instead of jump scaring you if you stare at him for too long, he jump scares you if you don't stop him with perfect timing. How do we stop him? We have this little lever in front of us that activates the window blinds. You have to hold them down right as Freddy finishes his journey across your window to prevent his jump scare. Easy enough, right? No. This mechanic gets miserable in later nights, all because of Phantom Puppet. Now we have to deal with the puppet too. Out of all of the Phantom animatronics, the puppet has definitely been changed the most here. Just for a quick recap, the puppet in the original game would block your vision for a while if you stared at it for too long when it appeared in Cam 8. In this game, the puppet behaves a lot more like the original Phantom Freddy. It swings down into your office every once in a while, and if it catches you not looking at some kind of panel, for about 2 seconds or so, you get a jump scare. This makes dealing with the puppet and Freddy at the same time literally impossible, unless you have frame perfect timing. Maybe, and even then I think you would have to hold down the blinds for too long to not get hit by the puppet. The only way to get rid of the puppet is to sit in your panel or your camera until it leaves, but it won't be gone for too long. I think Phantom Chica becomes active on night 5. You might be wondering why I'm so uncertain about things. I'll explain. Because this game is a remake of FNAF 3, so close to the original, it's technically illegal. Therefore, it's only available through some random person putting it up on GameJolt. This means that you can never really know if the item you're buying doesn't have something undesirable hiding inside. Rolliz Games got a lot of attention for playing through this fan game, and recently he said that the version he got was apparently a Trojan, which is a type of virus. Upon hearing that, I deleted my copy of the game, so if you want to go looking for it, do so at your own risk. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, I'm not really sure how Phantom Chica works. She appears on the arcade cabinet in Cam 7, just like in the OG game. She either gets you if you look at Cam 7 twice when she's on the screen, or she just gives you a split second of time to get off of her camera. I'm not really sure. I just know that I just stopped looking at Cam 7 at all because I did not know how to deal with her. This whole time I've been talking about this game as if it works perfectly as intended. It definitely has some quirks to it. I just wanted to take a second to shout out the 3 members that I currently have. The 3 members that I currently have: Tyler Feller, Doodle, Star of the Cosmos. Thank you so much. It's a great way to support me, and you get some exclusive perks like shoutouts and all long form videos starting from now on. Thanks. First of all, the creator did say that the game is unfinished. This is apparent because the extras menu shows Phantom Bonnie, but there is no Phantom Bonnie present in the gameplay, unless he's some Easter egg that I missed somewhere. Same thing with Phantom Mango. Second of all, the oxygen meter basically does nothing. Once your oxygen dips below the 80s or 70s or maybe the hundreds, your screen starts getting darker and darker and darker until you reach 0. But nothing happens when you hit 0. You can still complete the night even if you're on 0% oxygen for hours. The Night 5 AI is also very broken for some strange reason. Phantom Freddy disappears, Phantom Foxy isn't very aggressive at all. The only animatronics that are aggressive are the Puppet and Balloon Boy, and Springtrap only moves if you get a ventilation error, or at least barely moves. In my copy of the game at least, it's possible to beat Night 5 just by sitting in your maintenance panel and fixing ventilation errors and winding up the music box, which wouldn't be possible if Phantom Freddy was in play. And that brings up the issue of Phantom Freddy. I tried the nightmare mode for a while, and I'm not sure if it's possible. Okay, I'm sure that it's possible, but only through extremely lucky circumstances. The main problem is Phantom Freddy and Phantom Puppet. If Puppet is in your office when Freddy shows up, it is literally impossible not to get hit by Freddy, because you have to hold up the blinds for a couple seconds to get rid of Freddy. But if you're not looking at one of your panels, you'll get hit by the Puppet. Also, your maintenance panel gets disabled for seemingly no reason, which creates problems because that makes you vulnerable to the Puppet, and then you have to use your cameras, and then you can't fix errors. So the whole thing is just a horrible experience as far as the nightmare mode. Overall, this game was meant to be the perfect answer to the issues that many fans have with the third FNAF game. It has a satisfying and intuitive gameplay loop, it brings on panic-inducing and chaotic moments in later nights, and it does have one more important thing. It fixes Springtrap's jump scare. It's quick, it's jarring, and Springtrap has never looked better in my opinion. You can see the corpse of Afton inside the suit, and it's over in the blink of an eye. It doesn't last an eternity like the original one does. But the game also has its issues. Besides the unfinished nature of certain mechanics and certain entire nights that don't really work, you have to go through a 30-second cutscene before each night, which makes every death feel like more of a punishment than it should be. All of this makes this FNAF fan game the one that almost fixed FNAF 3. Oh yeah, and then there's the fact that this is a copyright infringing potential virus.